it's Digi. Do you want to know how to set up your V-roid character's hair so that it looks nice and beautiful and smooth and doesn't go "Wah!" all over the place? Well, then keep watching to find out because today we are talking about the hair bones and how to edit the hair bounce. Let's go! All right, so we've got our V-roid character here, Sugar Plum, as you may know. And because I'm a dunce, I totally forgot to add it in the hair tools tutorial last time. So I'm going to go in quick and talk about one little thing that I missed. So we're going to go under Edit Hairstyle here. And we're going to click on the thingies. Well, at least one of them. As you can see, we've got different selections for different parts of our hair. You know, the back side and front. All right, what's going to be simplest to show you? All right, so if you take the selection tool, select one of our hairs. I forgot to say that when you're down here adjusting the fluffy versus straight thing, there's this line, which if we zoom on into our character here, allows you to have a little bit more control over how the hair shape goes. So you can make it more fluffy or more straight manually as well. And by adjusting different points of the curves, it'll adjust different points of the hair. All right, now that we've got that done, we're gonna close without saving because it was fine before, but I just wanted to show you guys that quick because I forgot to edit last time. Today, we are going to be editing the bounce of the hair. So let me pull the character out so you can see her full hair. And in order to do that, we're gonna come over here where my pointer is, and we're gonna click on Edit Hair Bounce. All right. Now, first things first, I've already kind of like preset stuff up, but you're gonna have each of the different sections of your hair, like I talked about before. Yeah. All right. And then the first thing you're going to notice is that there is an auto generate bone group button, but you can also create bone groups manually as well. All right, now let's talk about auto generate hair group. So we've got this grouped hair tab. As you can see, I've already got groups. So if I click on one, it'll highlight it and show you which hair group is highlighted. And these are all separated to show the different groups. Now, let's take a look at this one here. All right, and you can delete this if you want, like if you're not happy with the bone group. So let's delete that real quick. And then that'll show up here in the ungrouped hair section. Now, if you want to auto-generate it, like I guess the pros of this is that it's like quick and easy, but the AI is not always the best and it won't always auto-generate the best selections, and it may make the hair a little wonky, which will lead to more work in the slider section that we'll be talking about later in this tutorial. Now, you can do that. Click Auto Generate Bone Group after you've selected the hair group, and it will do that automatically. Since I already had those all grouped together, it's no issue, but with some things, I want the braids to be together in a hair group because that's kind of important for like stuff like braids or stuff that's more together, like buns. You kind of want all in one group, but like individual hairs, like you see here on the character, you want them individually placed. So I'm going to delete everything here. It'll be good to show you anyway. And I'm going to talk about custom grouping your hair, which I find to be a lot easier in the long term because you have more control over what you could do with the hair. As far as that goes, it's a little more time consuming, but it is definitely worth it if you want your hair to be more flowy, more natural. So we've got several different hair groups, and as you can see here, it will highlight the hair that I have individually clicked on. So since my hairs were done with the mirror tool, it's going to be like every other hair. And once we have the hair selected that we want in a group, we're going to click Create Bone Group. And we're just going to continue to do that with the other side here as well. So you can see that, create bone group. And you can see that they're different colors to kind of separate and show you where said bone groups are. do group those together because those are like the sides and they work well together as well. And then for the bottom ones here, I want my braids to be all together in a bone group. Hold on, let me explain it this way. I want each braid to have its own bone group, but I want all the hairs within that braid to be in one bone group so it's easier to manage. All right, so we're gonna go every other hair because of the mirror tool I use to create said hair. And as you can see, it's highlighting as I go down the list. And yes, even the hair tie was made out of a actual hair. I'm not the best at that yet, but like this is my first attempt at braids. I think they look pretty good. So create the bone group for that. We've got the back. Since the back was all short hairs, I ended up separating all of the hairs because that would give me more control over said hair movement. And as you can see, there are a lot of groups, but it is definitely worth it. And kind of the same with the front. Like you want the bangs to be more versatile. You want them to have more movement. So the more parts you got, the more control you have over it, essentially. All right, back to my list because I don't want to forget anything. All right. So next up, we're going to be talking about the hair bones. And in order to edit those, you're going to want to click on a hair selection. And as you can see, these little bubble dots like pop up. And these are the actual bones. This determines how many joints are going to be within each individual hair and how much they're going to move. Now for the bangs, I'd probably only do like 2 hair bones a piece. And you can come over here to this chart and just quick edit it. So I'm going to go down the list and do that. Okay. And as you can see, I did all the hairs. I was clicking on the groups in order to do those. And now that we got to the longer section of the bangs, we're going to want to put more bones. So I think I'm going to put 4 bones in these side hairs. Yep. We got that. And now we've got the bang section done for setting the bones. And now we're going to move on to the back side of the hair. Now, longer hairs, I feel like should have more bones. And there is also another thing I'm going to talk about next, which is the fixed point, which will determine the point from which the hair starts its movement. All right, now once you have all of your bones in place, the next thing we are going to be focusing on would be the fixed point of the hair. Now, what is the fixed point of the hair? Fixed point, like I said earlier, determines where the hair will start moving from. So as you can see, like the auto generation of where I have the fixed point on these braids, like where it pre-placed it, isn't always going to be the best spot. You come over here to the slider, and that will kind of determine, you move it up, the fixed point starts at a lower area, and you move it back and it goes up. Now I personally want the fixed point to start like right here at the base of the head, so the braids can have a wee bit more movement. And we're going to do the same on the other side here. We're trying to get it as even as possible so that the hair flow looks more natural. All right, now we're going to move up to these, and since this hair is like floating a bit, we're going to move that fixed point back because we don't See, if you do it up too much, then it can make it a little bit crazy. So it was actually good where it was at. Sometimes you got to play around with it and figure out what's going to work best and what's not going to work best. Because sometimes you would be surprised about what it does. I'm going to move this one a little bit down. And then I'm going to look at the number over here so I can get the exact same one for the other side of the same hair. So that was 0.466, and then you type it in, and it automatically adjusts it for you once you have the exact values. All right, now we're going to be moving on to the back. All right, move her over there so you guys can see what I'm working on. All right. So we got this one. And generally, the fixed point might be a little bit high for where we want it. So I'm going to move it down here. And then I'm going to type in the value 0.35. And then I'm going to do the same for the other side. Nope, not that. 0.35. And so on and so forth, of course. So now that we've got the fixed point corrected, the next thing that we are going to be talking about is hair stiffness. Now, this determines how flexible your hair strands are going to be. So it depends on what part of the hair you're working on. Now, for the short mane bangs, like right here, we're probably going to want them to be a bit more stiff than, let's say, these side ones. And generally, the computer will recognize that, but not always. So let's go ahead and edit the stiffness. I'm going to try 0.60, and then we're going to test that out once we're done setting up the hair. Now, for these side bangs, we want them to be a little bit more flowy because they are longer strands of hair. So instead of 0.40, I'm going to try 0.35. If I remember correctly, the stiffness on shorter hairs generally tends to end up being good. 0.40 is usually good for shorter stuff such as this. But we might want to take these outer strands and make them a little bit more flexible, so we could try 0.35. Now we're going to work on the side hair stuff. All right, so our first group is over here. And thankfully, these are all clumped together. So instead of doing a bunch of individual hairs, having groups of hairs that actually work together is really, really nice because it does definitely save you some time. Now for these, I'm going to try 0.40 because I think that worked out pretty good for the lower hairs such as these. Now the top hairs, I want them to be a little bit more flexible, so we're going to try 0.35 on those. Alright, I'm going to enter in not 990, 0.35. Alright, and then for the braids, we definitely want those more flexible. I'm going to try 0.35, and if that's still not flexible enough, I'm going to come back and edit those as well. The system can be very touchy when it comes to stiffness, so be careful with it. You don't really need to edit it all that much for the most part. Excuse me. The bones and the fixed point are usually what is the most important. Okay, so the next point we have on our list of stuff to do on how to use and edit hair bones is gravity. hair gravity determines how much weight the hair has and how fast it will move. So like the higher the gravity, the heavier the hair, so it'll sway a little bit slower. Most of the time I don't end up messing with this, but like you might want to just a little bit, but I wouldn't do it all that much. For the braids, we're gonna try like 0.12 and see what that does for those braids. Now for the sides, I don't know if those need messing with just yet. This in particular, this character has pretty short hair, so the hair gravity doesn't apply as much here, I would say. So we could move on to the next thing. Like I said, I'll show you with the braids, but other than that, she doesn't have too much that needs to be edited in the way of like hair gravity. Maybe the long bangs will as well. So 0.12 and 0.12. Don't be afraid to mess around with it because you can always go back and edit it again. So it is completely redoable as well. Now, the last thing we have to talk about before we test out our V-roid character's hair is the hit radius. And the hit radius, it determines like these little ball things right here where the joints are for the bones is where the hit radius will change. So if you watch as I up the hit radius meter, the balls get bigger. And generally, saying that it keeps the hair from clipping into the face or the other hair too much and looking wonky. So we've got that set up to try 0.35 on these bigger strands. What? Wait, did I do something wrong? Oh, 0.35. Okay, my bad. You're gonna want to pay attention to that because some of the values are slightly different. 0.35. There we go. That's better. Now the bangs are already at a pretty good degree, so they probably won't clip into the forehead. Like I said, we could fix that if absolutely necessary, and I don't think the back was clippy either. The main parts I'm concerned about are probably these braids. So we're gonna want to up those to 0.035 as well and see how that works. 0.35. These are my basic understanding of the hair bones menu. Anyway, so when you're done with that, you're gonna want to save all of your savements because it'll create completely like new hair meshes. So what I would do is just click this, make sure all these are selected, and then click overwrite. So you don't get a bunch of like different custom thumbnails in your V-roid custom things, and that way you'll have the right one to use when you're ready. All right. Now, if you want to test out and see the actual animated movement of your character's hair, you're going to come up here in the upper right-hand corner and click on the camera, and that will take you right into photo booth mode. Photo booth mode has a bunch of different uses for your V-roid character, but one in particular that I use most for it is the actual animation. And as you can see here, our animation didn't turn out too terribly bad. Like, it actually looks half decent for her having short hair. And you can come over here into the sidebar and actually pick different poses and animation to see how the hair will interact in different ways. My computer's a little laggy, please forgive me. But it looks like for the most part we got it. And she's got kind of like a floaty hair. The hair likes to bug out sometimes if you're not careful. So making slight adjustments to your character will make a huge difference. And see, we got the braids perfect because it didn't whap over or clip in. It didn't clip into the shoulder, it just whapped right over that. So that was really nice to see. Now we're going to see her running. I think we might need to adjust these upper hairs so they aren't so wonky. But other than that, it looks pretty decent because most of the time you're going to see your character from the shoulder up. Anyway, for like YouTubing or streaming or anything like that. So there we go. And then the next thing I'm going to do with her is do facial expressions for the next tutorial because I like to get the hair on my character first before I give them their custom expression. All right. That's all for today. Hopefully you learned something and you can put it to good use and it helps you. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and bye-bye.